We'll call the finance meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Pat Kitty,
Here.
Blake Elfson,
Here.
Dick Pufall,
Here.
Brad Ray,
Here.
Ron Stendor.
Here.
Next, we'll go to approval of the agenda.
Ron will make a motion. We approve the agenda.
I'll second,
second
but I'd
that.
like to make a amendment to move the flap grant up to the front of the agenda.
So we'll make that item 4A then?
Yeah.
Ahead of 4A, okay. Any other comments or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you. Next, we'll go to number 3, public comments. Anyone here for public comment? Anyone online or on the phone for public comment? Anyone in the room, online or phone for public comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to the discussion action items number 4, and we'll go to the flap grant first.
First of all, Matt, why you tell them the good news?
Erica and I had applied for a flap grant back in October, I believe, for County Highway H for resurfacing a portion of that, basically the 9-mile loop. I had got a notification here a week or so ago that, well, at 7 in the morning, I got a notification said we were awarded the grant, and I was pretty excited. We had put in, it was a $6 million project. The grant application was for, I think, $4.2 million, and I thought, wow, this is great. And then a little later that day, about 3 in the afternoon, I got a second email said, oh, by the way, the grant was awarded, but only $600,000 for the design of the project. So Dan wanted me to bring it to the committee here to talk about if we should in fact take that award. Dan and I met with DOT yesterday to clarify it a little bit. When we applied for it, it was at a 80-20, so the county would have been required to pay 20% of that. They did say yesterday that it is 100% grant funded, so that design work would be 100% covered by the flap grant.
So yeah, so after that discussion, we're both in favor of taking that grant and doing all the design work to make it essentially shovel ready. It'll be 90% complete, the plans, and we can do the whole road. Or
well, we can apply. He said I can revise my application to apply for. I believe that 600,000 would cover design of all of County H, the whole 15 miles, not just the 9 miles I originally applied for. They said we can revise that application to cover that whole piece. So I would like to do that and kind of try to break it down into 3 portions, so we could either find other funding opportunities for portions of it, like a third of it at a time, instead of looking for the whole big piece at once, which I think would be cost prohibitive to find a grant to cover that. So sounds like they'll let us do that, but I need to do some paperwork with them.
Once the design is done, are we on the hook for the actual construction in a certain time?
No, formerly you had a 10-year construction period that has been rescinded. So there is no construction period that we would have to have it done in any time frame.
So there's really nothing, no reason not to take this.
No, there's not. They also, that was funded in 28. I asked them if we could move it back, and they said possibly to 27. I'd like to get the design done sooner than later, so we could move forward with other grant opportunities with a design in hand.
Yeah, and thereby making it more likely to get a grant because it's shovel ready.
Do we need a motion to?
Well, we have some more flap grant stuff too.
Oh, okay.
Well, let me,
Or do you want to just do this one and go to the next flap grant?
let's do this one and keep things separate. As far as the 600,000, what are your thoughts on, will this cover everything or not?
I believe we'll come in well under that for design. It's a fairly simple project. It's just a pavement replacement. We're not doing culvert work, and we're not rebuilding the road. We're not looking for extra right away, all the more complicated portions. So I believe it would cover that.
So if we approve this, we would have an understanding on this committee that it's possible, not likely, but possible, we might need to contribute a bit more, just so that we understand that would be, it's not out of the realm of possibility, so we would do that. And then my other question is, on the design work, do you perceive this design work to be what you would want in the future versus for whatever reason, the world might change, desires out there might change, and we end up with something different on design work?
I do not know.
Okay.
No, it's just pavement replacement. You know, I'll need some discussion with whoever's designing it. What exactly we want to do? Our general policy, or what we have been doing, is milling off one inch and replacing it with two. The island, we might want to consider milling two and replacing it with two, just because materials are so much money. We would want to recycle as much as possible.
So if there's anything else on this particular flap grant, are we ready for a motion?
I'll move that we accept the $600,000 for design on County Road H.
Ron will second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. The next one, Matt?
So we have a flap grant we were awarded a few years ago that was projected to be built this year, 2025. The bid let date had been set as March of 25 a couple years ago. I was notified here not long ago that they want to move the let date. They initially said to June or July. I told them that's unacceptable. That would make our project cost more. I mean, if you can bid them in the winter, there's projects, you know, the contractors don't have a lot of work. They're looking, they bid better in the summertime when they're have more work on the table. You know, they'll take the work, but they bid it a little higher. So in talking with them, the money has not been, the DOT Wisconsin has not received the money from Eastern Federal Lands for the flap grant. Dan and I, again, we met with them yesterday, had a discussion. They requested the funds from the feds back in September. Have not heard from them yet on it. They claim they're gonna planned to get the money in March. Then it has to go through all the signings, and the earliest they could possibly bid the job right now is, if the money comes in March, is May. But they're not 100% confident they will see the money in March at this time. So at some point, you know, we need to make a decision. Do we want to bid it out this year? If they come back and say, well, we have the money and it's July, no, do we still want to bid it? You know, our construction season is getting shorter, you know, the prices are going to be higher. At what point do we feel that the price this year is going to be higher than next year's price with inflation? It's just kind of up in the air on the funding when the money will be available.
So what are you asking for from this committee then?
This is just an information item.
Just information?
Yes, just want
Something we may have to revisit this early summer. You know, if we do it this year, it may necessitate not doing one of the seal coating jobs because we only have X amount of dollars.
Might have to, you know, if the project comes in higher than we anticipate, we might need to shuffle money around. But the problem is if we wait until July, I mean,
Yeah,
the other issue it's causing is in our budget this year, we had our portion of M, we were going to resurface with county dollars, and Bayfield County was going to do 3 or 4 miles of their portion of M, you know, so we can get a economy of scale and we could get a big project for them to bid on and hopefully get really good prices. So now the question is to me and to Jake from Bayfield County, do we bid our M jobs out yet this winter? Or do we hold off and wait till that's happening for sure? Or, you know, it's leaves a lot of questions, you know, which way we should move forward with it, I guess.
Questions, comments?
No, like I said, we just want you guys to know ahead of time that there might be issues down the road.
But the other
So,
possibility in this is, given some of the projects you're trying to plan and coordinate, what you said, is understandable. It gets more expensive in the summer, but also backing out of some of this, it's more expensive either next year or if we do our part alone and the job isn't so big. The other possibility is we look at everything and finding a way to make this work this year, if overall that's better than waiting on something until next year, which would mean we'd have to come back from a budget perspective and look at our options. Because I remember some of these years where you put it out late, and like you say, if they're really busy, that could be just it's a wet year and they're all behind, or just there's a lot going on, or both. And sometimes some of the numbers I remember is like, you've got to be kidding me what they want for something.
Yeah.
So, revisit it sooner than later. And if we need to explore something, we should at least have that conversation. So,
Yeah.
Oh, I guess we'll be talking about this again in late spring.
yeah,
Well,
it's,
hopefully in March, we will have an idea if
Yeah.
the money is going to be available at that time or not.
Yeah.
okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Next, we'll go to the approval of Finance and Economic Development Committee meeting minutes from our last meeting.
Brad will make the motion to approve.
Ronald, second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we will go to our discussion with our consultants. We got Mike and Steve? Okay.
Yep, sorry, I had to just click my buttons there to unmute and put my camera on. Good afternoon, everyone. Dan has the report for your year-end 2025 kind of budget preview as of this month, January, which, just as a reminder, there are a couple more months of activity that will impact your 2025 budget. Typically, departments are allowed to charge any invoices back that were incurred prior to 12/31 through the end of February. And then we will probably cut off shortly thereafter, probably in March sometime. And then any adjustments that are made after that would be done via the audit. So the auditors would determine if they were material or not, or maybe they become current year entries, depending on the materiality. So this is, I put 95% complete because there still are some things that will be happening that will affect these financial statements.
Dan, it's George Gousset. I was just there with Lori. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I was just in for an appointment with Lori to get my new hearing aids.
George, this is
And I
Pat
left
Kinney.
some of my paperwork there.
George,
So if you could just save that for me, put it
can
in.
you just mute him?
Oh,
He's intending to join this meeting later with the economic development piece. So we'll keep him, but just
okay. Gotcha. Okay. So the good news is if you look at your 2024 actuals versus your 25 actuals, you're pretty much on pace to where you were last year compared to this year. So I anticipate, no huge changes to your financial condition. There will be entries being made that to close out your self-insurance fund because you guys went fully insured 1/1/2025, but then you had run out claims that needed to be processed. I had worked with Heather later in the year of 2025, I think the last week or therefore, somewhere in there. And the good news is what had been recorded to date was about a $217,000 amount of net activity expense for the fund. The good news is you had in your fund a reserve for claims incurred but not paid of roughly $220,000. So that number was very close to what actually occurred, which means that you will not incur a larger deficit. If anything, you may have a small amount trickle in that reduces your deficit that is still in the fund. You closed out 2024 in that fund, I think about 1 million in the hole. Let me just look here. Yeah, 1,152,000. So as part of the closeout process, we will get rid of that deficit via transferring from your general fund. The good news is that amount is already reserved in your general fund, so it won't impact your unassigned amount because it will just decrease the reserved portion. And that amount would, then be the money we use to pay off the deficit. So there should be no major impact from that. And then some other highlights from the report here today. The good news is your interest income for the county was up a little bit, like 100,000 over budget. That's in your general fund. You did have, and then Dan, I don't know if I'm stealing any thunder here, but I know in talking to Dan and Sue, we had some unpaid amounts with Bad River Tribe, and they did make a payment. I think, Dan, what was the amount? Like 146,000?
Yeah, it was. Let's see. No, it was, yeah, 146,111.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean that'll be good news because we had written off your receivable with them, I think the prior year in 24. So that'll actually just be revenue this year, which is good news.
Yeah.
So that's good.
And just one thing to add to that, and that was a grant that Bad River gets every year. So we should see 73,000 again this year, for this year,
Good.
either at the end of the year or next year.
Perfect.
Does that make that balance then go to zero? That amount we charged off?
Not totally, but it
Yeah.
gets us.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look, Blake, but I agree with Dan. I don't think it was a 100% of it. Because they did make a payment last year sometime, and I'd have to go back and look at it, but I would say probably not 100%, but it's getting closer, obviously. So that's good news. I think, for the perspective here, highway is I think October was billed out to the county. So, you have two funds for your highway department, the internal service fund as it's listed here, and the county road and bridges fund. So what happens is the highway fund right on the bottom there, it says other major funds highway. That fund is like the business operations. It includes the labor, the machinery, all the equipment. They do the work on the state, county, township roads, and then they invoice the state, the townships, others, and then there's a bill that's sent to the county road and bridges fund for the work on the county road. So the county puts money into the road and bridges fund to pay for the work on the county roads. The billings are a little bit shy. I think November and December have to be recorded yet, but it's getting closer, and we hope possibly to get that caught up here in the not too distant future. So if there were any questions, or Mike, I don't know, do you have any comments you want to make?
No, the only thing I'd like to add is if you look at the county road and bridge fund under the revenue side on top, third line from the top, you can see they're significantly under 49% received. And that's basically the revenues from the transportation aids coming in. There are some larger grants yet for 25 work that the highway is waiting for. There's what they call a LRIP grant for approximately 235,000 and a FEMA grant that I know I talked to Matt a while ago about um, pers- getting that to come in too. So that's a larger one. So those are still to be determined. Even if they come in 26, they're 425 work. They should be recorded as a receivable and put back into the 25 records. So those
Yeah.
are fairly larger amounts.
Yeah, so if they don't come in January or February, we would look to make an estimate of them and make an entry to record a receivable and show the revenue in 25. So, any
So we
questions?
we expect the revenue to be a little bit higher here in the next month or so.
Perfect.
Okay.
Is that's what we're hearing, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, that
Well,
the revenues will be, before you close the books for the end of the year, will be higher.
yes. As a matter of
Okay.
fact, your sales tax is always 2 months behind. So what's recorded currently is through October. You have November and December sales tax that will come in January and February. So that gets accrued back. There's other things that occur too. I know that clerk of court's time for like their work when child support matters are in court. I talked to Sue, that typically gets billed out once a year, and then child support claims that and earns 66% roughly of that as revenue for the county. That's going to be included too, an estimate there for that. So I mean, these numbers are not the final numbers. So good questions.
Yeah, there's also a bunch of money coming in yet due from HHS because of
Yeah.
the billings to the state.
Yeah.
There's highway money coming in yet from the state.
Any
So,
other que-
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was gonna move on to one other item I just wanted to update you guys on, but if there's a question on this, feel free.
I was going to ask maybe a related question. I think I saw an article a day or two ago that the state of Wisconsin might be like 70 million, I believe, short on funding for SNAP benefits. And last fall, late August, whatever it was, we were informed that there might be more demand for
Right.
on the
Yeah.
local level to fill that gap. Do we?
No, the state is covering that for now. The issue with SNAP is going to be more in 27. Um, when the cuts really hit.
Okay, so for now, it doesn't affect last year or this year.
Well, it affected this year with extension, but as far as food benefits, food share benefits,
Right.
it's really, the state is going to be short this year and they'll be making that money up. But next year is when the real problem is going to hit.
For the county level.
Well, for the state, we may get hit with administrative costs not being reimbursed, so we might have that problem. But there's a long time to go between now and then.
Yeah.
Yes.
The direct benefits to the recipients for food stamps do not pass through your financials. Those are separate through the state.
Right.
But the administrative costs, if we,
Well, yeah, having employees work on the issue, we may lose money there. So until we know what the full extent of it is, and we still don't know, we'll have to have this conversation during budget season next year.
2027.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Yeah. So this summer we'll probably know more about what's going on.
Mhm.
But my guess is in the federal budget, which I can almost guarantee is going to get passed by September 30th for the fiscal year 27, because they don't want to risk a shutdown right before an election. This problem might get solved because there's going to be a lot of complaints. And so Congress may have to act
Okay.
and fix it.
Anyone else? Questions, comments? Mike, Steve?
So just to summarize, Steve, sounds like we had a couple things bounce in the county's way. Investment interest income was higher by 100 grand. We got some receivables from Bad River, which had basically been written off. Now that'll credit straight to revenue for 140. We have some clarity on the health insurance, so that kind of washes itself off. So overall, 2025 it's gonna be a decent year for the county, just
Yeah,
overall.
I think it'll be pretty much a break even year, I would say. Which is good because if you think about it, we applied surplus funds against your budget. So if you end up balancing it by the end of the year, that's a good thing. And that's why sometimes we recommend applying surplus funds because it seems like people that prepare budgets, human beings, typically don't short themselves on the expense side. They almost always budget for something not to embarrass them. And they typically budget conservatively on the revenue side. So you'll see things like this happen. And I think that's just kind of normal kind of budgeting, is for people to do it that way. So I think if I had to pull out my magic ball and tell you exactly, I would, just plan on a break even year. And, if it flops the other way, well, good. And if it's a slight deficit, well, we're doing pretty good. Is that good? Answer your question, Blake?
Yep, that's helpful. Again, I think it's good for everyone to hear these things because it's hard when we're going through budget, everything feels bad and like, oh, and now it's like, okay, we'll be all right.
Yeah. No, and the thing I don't know that it's instinct for me, looking at your past and looking at where you are today. I don't know, because I haven't spoken to every one of your department heads to know what other receivables they have coming in or what invoices they're going to be paying. But typically, that activity, you'll finish in a better spot than you are today with what's on the screen today. So, any other questions on the budget report? I have one other item I wanted to cover it, but if there are other questions, certainly speak up.
Looks like you can go ahead.
Okay. So the last thing I wanted to just update you on is so when we did the budget, when you guys adopted your budget for 2026, if you recall, we utilized the carry forward that was on your levy limit worksheet that was from prior years. So when we submitted your report, of course, DOR reviews that, and they did reach out to the county and had some questions on it. I'm happy to report that we passed muster and they allowed it to happen. So, you always kind of like, oh, when you get that email, it's like, but in the end, we did work with Andrea down at DOR, and she did close it out and said that everything was good. So I just wanted to update you on that.
Well, good. Thank you. I'm glad we did it.
Yeah. I mean, the only kind of interpretation thing that was different, I don't know if you recall the language there, but we had to have at least a 2/3 vote. And it said your current year debt level had to be equal to or less than your prior year debt level, which in November of 25, we interpreted your current year was 2025 and your prior year was 2024. Well, DOR interprets it that your current year is 2026 and your prior year is the end of 25. You should be okay. We just have to work within the parameters. And we looked at the amount that we could borrow and we compared it back to your capital improvement plan for what you were predicting for 2027, borrowing, which you usually do in November of the year before. And we're 300,000 or so below where we would need to be to maintain that qualification. So we needed to just provide an assurance to DOR that we would stay within those parameters, and they closed it out. So.
Well, good. Thank you.
Yep.
What that means is we can't debt levy to the moon. We're limited, what, 2.2 million?
Yeah, 2.2 something.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we know taxes won't go up much.
Okay. Anything else from anyone? Thank you, Mike and Steve.
Yep.
Nick?
Thank you.
with the extension one. So we'll move to the next item then. We have what is labeled CUW extension budget carryover request, and Mary is here with us. So who wants to introduce this? Mary, you're welcome to join us.
Yeah, thank you for letting me be here today. So as you are probably aware, the Extension Office is being moved into the Administrative Office. So we are going from 6 rooms down to 3, and we're not exactly sure yet what it's going to look like and what kind of storage we'll need, and if how our desks will fit and things like that. So it would be really helpful if we were able to carry over a little bit of funding from our budget last year, 2025 budget, to this 2026 budget, to be able to purchase like locking cabinets if we need to put stuff out in the hallway, or partitions if there's some sharing situations that we're going to have to do. So we're not exactly sure, like I can't give you an amount of what we're going to need. And whether or not we actually will even need it. But in the 2025 budget, it's 30,000 plus that we didn't use in our 2025 budget because of the vacancy in the 4-H position. So there is some funding there, and I just wanted to see if we could carry some of it over.
Okay, my opinion is that to do that carryover will require a budget amendment for the county board. So Sue and Mike and I have been talking, Steve and I have been talking about this. We think the simplest solution is to let the money go into contingency, and that I just approve items as we need it. Steve, I think you want to comment on this too?
Sorry, I had my mic muted. Yeah, I think because my understanding is the extension office is moving into where you are, Dan, so you're moving somewhere. I think child support's moving to. So there are several departments moving. You know, if we carry this forward and it's just for extension, it's kind of, you know, it's much bigger than that. So I think to be fair to everyone, if there's money left over in the budget, if the administrator could be in charge of it to, you know, approve things as they pop up and report back to the committee or whatever you would deem appropriate, would seem to make more sense for the whole county.
The other thing is the state is going to pay for part of child support's expenses. So we are going to try to get the state to pay as much as possible of it, because the whole move is happening for child support. That's going to be our argument, and we're going to try to get every penny we can from them.
So what you're looking for us is support for allowing to, from contingency, use funds as need be to provide furniture, equipment, et cetera, for extension in their move.
I think for every office, all 3 offices. As Steve was saying, I mean, they're not the only one who's going to incur expenses. So I don't think I'm going to have very many expenses other than the labor to move stuff. And I don't think child support's going to have that much either. I mean, it's really just going to be the labor to move things. Highway's going to come up here and move all the desks and stuff. So yeah, I just think we should draw from contingency to do all that.
So,
And put this 34,000 in contingency.
so if we put this in contingency, just in terms of process, then when you need to order stuff, you'll be able to order it.
Yeah,
And are we talking about capping a total on this, or are we giving you carte blanche to use?
no, I would cap it
Okay. I would
To-
think so too.
to
because
whatever number you guys decide is fine. But I would definitely put a cap on it.
Do you have an estimate for us as a cap that you should be able to work with?
Sue, what do you think? 10, 15? We have, thing is, we have file cabinets and downstairs,
Well,
and we have,
well, give us a number so that you know that you're going to get what you need, and so that you can get it and get set up, so we don't end up coming back over a small amount.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking like no more than like 3, but I was just thinking for us, not
Right.
not
so
3.
yeah, like 10-ish. I'd say 10 to 15. Because, you know, I don't know how much highway's gonna cost. It should be just a few thousand.
Yeah, we looked up those locking cabinets, and through the current company, just the one that's normally used, they're like $500, but they're kind of chintzy ones. So a decent locking cabinet is probably a couple $100 more than that, you know, so.
You know, if we went 15, I mean, you're still going to use restraint on
Oh, yeah.
being reasonable on this. I trust that.
Yeah.
But that way you can order, get things and get set up and not have to come back or have delays, because if you don't have your office furniture and you got boxes on the floor instead, that's hard. So I'm fine with 15 just to make sure
Yeah, and
it all flows easily for the transition.
yeah, and we'll look at other departments to see if there's stuff available too.
Yeah, and I'm also bearing in mind, it's unfortunate we lose extension staff. You know, for a bunch of reasons, that's unfortunate, but one of the reasons we did a space needs study is we went into it being pretty sure we needed more space. And the unfortunate reality is we don't need as much space as we once thought. And so from a space needs perspective, it's more affordable to refurbish some offices and do a transition than it is to find another building to add offices. So, you know, from that perspective, it's,
Yeah, thank you. We'll be okay once we're in. It's just the getting in and getting set up.
you know. George?
Muting. Oh, yeah. I just want to ask a hypothetical question as whether we've ever looked at co-locating both Ashland and Bayfield County Extension Services in the visitor center. I don't know if that's feasible at all, but UW is partner in the visitor center. That might be a logical thing.
I can answer that.
Okay.
Yeah, the Forest Service is not gonna allow that.
Okay, thank you.
So a cap of 15 from contingency. I'm seeing nods from Sue and others. So do we have a motion then?
Brad will make a motion to put 15,000 out of contingency for office moves, furniture and what it
Do
needs.
you want also to include in that moving the remaining money from extension into contingency?
Does that need to happen or does that happen automatically?
It would happen automatically.
Okay.
Okay. Do we have a second of the motion then?
Ron will second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We'll go to the next item.
Oh, it's the SEP.
Which is the Northwest SEP request for loan relief on their 5,000.
So if you all remember last year, we agreed to loan, SEP had a bunch of financial problems. And so the 12 counties that SEP serves asked each one to loan them $5,000. So now they're asking if we can convert that into a grant. I do know most of the other counties all the other counties are doing the same thing, converting it to a grant. And they do get people employed. I mean, it's a good program.
I thought we did that when we originally gave it to them though.
No, it was a loan.
Okay.
We probably would have done a grant if they had asked for that, but they asked for a loan, so anyhow, the letter is self-explanatory.
Ron?
No, just my question was, you said most of the counties are going along with the grant.
Yeah. I don't expect anybody to actually collect the money.
Yeah.
It's if they get a couple people employed, it's worth $5,000 to us.
Yeah, I've had SEP workers and stuff, so.
Yeah.
So the history here, and I'm gonna abstain because I'm pretty close to SEP, but they had an executive director who it wasn't working out. He came in, he asked incorrectly for a loan, should have asked for the grant. So they have a new executive director. She's doing a good job. They're on the right path. I'm gonna abstain, but I think this makes a ton of sense.
So I talked to Dan about this earlier today. It occurred to me two things, one of which is this supports economic development. But then we also have, in our previous meeting, we just updated our policy for community contributions. And so my suggestion would be, we have a form for community requests. It's fairly simple. They certainly have an annual report or audit that would be easy for them to attach. And that if we and the board approve this, we just ask them to fill out that form, which will be pretty quick for them, attach an annual report or audit. And then for this year, we include this grant as part of supporting economic development and community programs, which it really is. By making it a grant instead of returning the money from the loan, our general fund will be 5,000 lower. And that way we've got a paper trail on community contributions and what they're for.
I think, Pat, you're right. We need to get them to fill out that form to be consistent since we pushed everyone to that. And they will provide financials. So I think that makes sense after this, requesting that their financial director does that. And then going forward, if they request $5,000 again, they're going to go through this form just like everybody else.
Right. We ready for a motion or other questions?
Is that form developed? I know we talked about it.
Yeah, it is. We
have it.
we used it over the summer.
Oh, okay. I thought we talked about just at the in December meeting to add some things to
Yeah,
it.
I wanted to add the financials.
Right, so adding the financials, and then there was one other thing. So we updated that, and we're using it in this year again. So it'd be consistent to have them fill that out, so.
Well, I'll make a motion that we convert it to a grant, assuming that they fill out the form with the financials included that we did in the December meeting.
Ron, I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm going to abstain.
We have Blake abstaining. The motion carries, thank you. Next, we will go to F, fund balance policy. Steve, there was a couple of things on the fund balance I wanted to ask. One of which is, we talked about an amount that is reasonable to have in there a number of months ago. But related to that is, what else do counties put into a fund balance policy that then the finance committee and or board approve? What else do we want in there besides that? And then the other question is related to what you talked about earlier. We were under what I believe we could have levied by about 48,000 last fall. And after your comments earlier about the hoops and working with the DOR, my other question is this. It's one I prefer to start with for the moment. When we prepare budgets and you're going around to different departments saying, where can you spare a few nickels and dimes? We end up at the end with about 48,000 under. Why didn't we use our full allowable levy limit at that point? And related is that 48,000 or something we're going to have to ask again permission to come back and add or not?
No. So there's two things there that I heard. So your levy amount is what determines what DOR tracks. And I don't remember the years that 48,000 was sitting there, but apparently I think there were 2 years where the county did not take its max levy amount. And I don't know why. We were under, I think one of those years at least, I think we were working with you. But the county didn't. So because of that, then they tracked that and they said, okay, Ashland County levied this and you were under by that amount. So they track that and allow you to reclaim it in the future within 5 years, I think they track, and then it would fall off if you didn't claim it within that period. So it has nothing to do with if you underspend in your budget. It's totally based upon what you levy. And in those 2 years you were under, and they tracked it. So we reclaimed it by doing what we did to reclaim it.
So what I'm looking at, this is from our meeting at the end of October, October 28th, on the sheet that was in the county board packet. I'm looking at it's the lower right, last page, second line from the bottom, lower right, over levy limit or in parentheses under, in the amount of 68,537, and it's in parentheses. So that means we're under. And my question is, that 68,000, if we're under, does that mean going forward, if we want to capture that, so to speak, with that levy limit worksheet, do we need to come back and do the levy limit worksheet within 5 years again, or not?
I don't think you were under, which, do you know which, was that the, I'm just trying to find your, the report that you're talking about. Is it the condensed one that shows like all the departments kind of, and
It's the one that I'm coming up to it right now.
are you going to put it on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
Oh, I see. There's that number over there, county levy without library, and then it says increase, and then it's got over levy limit under 68,537.
Right.
Let me go back and look at your levy limit worksheet. Give me 1 second. 2025.
I want to say it was like 21, 22, 23.
Well,
Yeah,
that
the
number on that sheet would be from 25, not.
Oh, I mean, where where didn't use all the levy.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Just 1 second. I'm looking for it.
So on the levy limit worksheets, the years were 2022 and 2021.
Yep.
And so this one is obviously not either of those years, but then it shows us as being under, and I'm just wondering, do we have to go back on a levy limit worksheet again in the future to capture that?
No, I don't think you're going to. I'm looking at your 24 levy limit worksheet, which is for your 25 budget.
That has percent unused as 0.
Yeah, which I'm gonna say I need to look at my worksheet that you're referring to, Pat, because that might be an error on there. Let me just find that worksheet.
Hey, Steve, if I can just jump in on this a little bit.
Yeah,
I think,
please rescue me.
I think when that adjustment comes in, when you figure the allowable levy on the first page,
Yeah.
and then you actually levy less than that.
Steve,
Yeah.
it's on the screen if you can.
See? And
Oh.
and you can get around that by adjusting your debt levy,
Yes.
by making that equal. And if you forget to do that, you will show on the front page an allowable levy that's more than you're going to actually levy. And
Yep.
then they'll pull it out and put it on there. So
Yeah,
I think that's the reason.
Dan, scroll down just a little bit because the other way. Section B would be if it was in your previous years that it would show up there. So for the numbers that you're referring to, Pat, there was no unused levy. That's I don't know. I must have an error on my worksheet there. I apologize. That shows that you are under your levy limit. Let me just find that report again. Yeah, I'm trying to look here. So it shows 9141527 county levy without library. You know what? If it's
You
okay,
can research this more
Yeah.
if you want to get back to you, but I think that's
yeah. I think it's something in my worksheet, to be honest with you, because you were not under your limit for 25's budget.
I'd be happy to let you have time to go back and research this, and then we could continue the fund balance discussion next time, because part of what I want to ask about fund balance policy is when I look at this, I didn't understand, that 68,000. And as we develop budgets, unless somehow in a miracle, our tax base increases a lot and our net new construction rate goes way, way, way up, we're probably going to want to capture everything every year as part of a policy, it would seem, so we don't have to go back and go through the process that we did last fall.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that 100% what you're saying, and I think you'll be forced actually to probably do that because the kind of shopping basket full of goods that you purchase, is not correlated its increase to what happens on your levy limit worksheet, meaning that your goods and services you're procuring, your labor, your health insurance, all that kind of stuff is probably going to exceed what you're allowed to increase on your levy limit worksheet. So you will probably be at your max levy amount. And when I say max, you always can take a debt exception. We're limited this fall based upon us, taking that 48,000. But, that doesn't mean that you couldn't come back in January and borrow because it's only limiting you for your 12/31/26 balance. So just know that too.
Okay, so it'd be good for all of us to understand this really well and get it in writing. So as you and Mike decide to go fishing instead, that we're in the best shape we can be on this issue.
I like the way you think.
All right. Well, you can go ice fishing up here right now.
Oh, you know what? That is one thing I usually stay off the ice. I've had too many people go through. I get mine when the water's open.
Yeah. All right. So should we move on then? And we'll come back to this next time then. Thank you.
Yep. We'll get you some answers on that.
Okay. Then the next item, with the economic development discussion, I suggested to Dan that we have this as a standing item so that we continue to think about it, but also just that item with that title gives us broad discussion or latitude for a discussion rather than restricting it. So I've made a few notes here on a couple of things. I'm kind of watching the clock here a little bit too. Blake is chair of zoning. We had a zoning meeting on Tuesday, and part of the discussion on zoning has been what can we do to support economic development here, which also includes making it easier for people to build here, residential homes and stuff. And often it comes back to water and sewer systems and size of lots. So on Tuesday, there's a person interested in putting in a business where he would treat red pine posts to make treated posts. So we had some conversation there. And a week or so ago, I talked to Bruce, and Krisha sent me a summary of some things, and I forwarded that to Dan. Did you get that today? In an email? It should be there. And the idea would be to summarize some of the things related to those topics with the county and sharing it with the townships and making it more widely available. In the conversation with Bruce, one of the things that really sticks with me rather strongly is in the Marengo area, at least, if you're going to build anything, the first thing you might want to do is thinking about, can I drill a well? Because if you can't get water, do you really want to build there? And so the fact that it's gotten to that point would suggest if someone does put in a good well, it'd be nice to share that well, with multiple uses, maybe a number of different houses, or if you've got a house and a business there, a well that connects, and that's no different than a dairy farm. You use the same well for, everything on that farm. So are there zoning related things like that that could be summarized? And then it seems that we're going to keep getting construction related businesses building buildings, in that neck of the woods. Are there things related to zoning where we could encourage or support and work with them to, you didn't get that email? Yeah. Okay. To try to, just so that they know, instead of buying a 40 and sticking my stuff in one corner, well, maybe a number of us could go in together and put our stuff closer together. It basically looks like an industrial park then, but that way they can share a driveway. They may well be able to share a well. We've talked about septic systems. If you put in a mound system, those are really expensive. But if you put one in that serves multiple buildings, one might be your business where you've got employees, but another might be if your house is close enough. that sort of stuff. So just a background sheet on some of that, and a word of encouragement maybe in the first paragraph of why we're providing this, and then also a statement that we're looking to work with you and help in, ways that we can, and see if that helps with the economic development piece. But it would also tie into with farmland preservation concerns where, more and more people buy a 40 and build something. And if we could have this more densely located, it would help with those topics too. So can you pull that up, Dan?
No, I can't pull my email up on the screen.
Okay. So my question to the committee would be, would we want to continue working with zoning to do a 1 or 2 page summary along that line that we can share, in the hopes that from an economic development standpoint, it might, make things better than otherwise. And it's something that on the county end, it just takes some of our time, but we're not having to commit financial resources, to it, like buying a 40 and turning it into industrial park. Because my feeling is at least there's a group of them that would figure that out on their own if we can find ways of working with them on those issues of water, sewer, roads, and lot sizes, and then the uses that are allowed on a property. So,
Makes sense to me.
okay. So I'll continue to work with zoning on that. So Blake and I are on zoning. We'll continue that then to work on that summary.
So, Pat, I think you're scratching the surface of something that you look across into Bayfield County, and they've built a business park that they're slowly filling up with what they're are going to be long-term tenants that are successful businesses, and incentivization. How do they do that? That's things that we struggle with a little bit right now. And I think, looking at our land that we own as a county, and trying to figure out if there's something close to town that we could do exactly like you're talking about, is bring some businesses. So I just want to pivot a little. So last week I heard Bayfield County had hired Haley from the AADC after the city found out Brant Kucera carved out some budget money and under him an employee, and added her to the city staff. And so Haley from AADC, who is a key member of that group, is now going to be within Ashland, the city of Ashland, focused on economic development. That's her new role. It's a very new position. It was created by Brant, I think, with the mayor's blessing. But they're still going to continue to fund the AADC the same level. And so I just want to make people aware that the city is investing in economic development, although I think what the county's saying is we're going to do it in different ways. And so I just want to make sure everyone understands, because they keep saying how the county cut funding for AADC, they're not doing economic development. And I'm saying, wait a minute, everything we talk about is economic development when it comes to the things like broadband, like quality of living, wages for staff, like all this ties back. And so we just have to remember that the county can't necessarily do everything, but things that we are doing are considered economic development. And so we talked a little bit about at zoning solar, and I think kicking Excel, seeing if they're willing to partner city, county, doing a very large solar farm or something like that. Those investments are the type of things that we're kind of lacking right now. And I think those are the areas that, Pat, we need to be focused on.
Yeah, and the whole construction thing, there's clearly an area of Ashland County where there's a lot of trades related family and buildings, and by all accounts, they're going to continue to grow their presence in the trades. And there's tax base, obviously, when they put up buildings. And so we want that tax base here versus Bayfield County. And, in that conversation with Bruce about the wells again, and I'm thinking back to when the iron ore mine was proposed at Mellon and then the CAFO a decade ago, Bayfield County did a study on the wells in Bayfield County, got baseline data. and had meetings. And so, being, growing up there and owning land there, it really struck me how the Bibbin Swamp area, that water there flows towards Ashland through under White River Ag, under my property, heading this way. You want lots of water, you head over there, and there's already families moving the Bayfield County way, just simply because you can get a well put in with more certainty and not as deep. And so if we are going to have some of this development stay in Ashland County, we're going to need to be more proactive, because, they're already looking at, and the taxes are lower in Bayfield County. So I think we need to, start where we can, and it's the zoning sort of things, and reaching out and letting them know that we want to work with them in, whatever ways we reasonably can. So it's a start on that. And like you said, Blake, Bayfield County has been at it a while on this. So, George?
So I want to build on Blake's point about quality of life. Employers can pay lower salary and lower wages and have endure a lower cost if the community in which they are located is attractive to their employees in terms of quality of life. These kind of things that are sleeves off the vest of a corporation are benefits to employees and the corporate employer as well, and to the community. When I was in the corporate world, we went from having everybody wearing suit and tie to business casual. That was like a wage increase, a salary increase for people that didn't have to buy business suits anymore. Small, but appreciated. And so I'm interested in seeing us put a little bit more effort, if we can afford to do it, into the county participating in development of parks and recreation, in an effort to make our community more attractive to employers without having to increase the wages that they pay people. So in our next budget cycle, if we can afford it, I'd be in favor of allocating at least some contingency toward that objective. Thanks.
If the county, if that all works out with the Maxwell property, one possibility there is that we, do something there to make use of it beyond just vacant land. There's that building there. So,
Well, the end result of the Maxwell property is that the state's gonna buy it. In the end, that was the whole plan along.
in the end, if the state has it, and then with an agreement with the state, if we can make some uses of it, we'd have to work with the state on that, but.
Yeah, well, it'll be state property, so yeah, people will be able to go use it. They'll be able to hunt there, fish there. They can do whatever they want. I mean, it's just like any other state property. And I think Erica has an update on that for the grant writer update.
We'll wait till the grant writer update, and then we'll catch that. Let me move to solar then, just in the interest of time. At the zoning meeting, we talked about solar farms some. I got a packet of information from a company called Renewable Energy Systems out of Denver, Colorado. Third week of December, they included in there a map of my farmland in Bayfield County, east of Mason, and they're offering $800 per acre annually, plus increases for inflation over that period of time. And there's one post of the high voltage power line that crosses my property in the very northwest corner. So researching this, they'd like to be along high voltage power lines and also near substations. There's a substation directly south of White River Ag and Highway E. I'm sure I'm not the only one that got that same packet of information out there, but it really struck me from researching this. One is there's an awful lot of solar going in this country, and it's for a variety of reasons. One of which is with data centers, yes, there's demand there, but it's so hard to predict how much power is going to be needed where and for how long with what's going on in the world. And normally when electric utilities plan building especially larger power plants, they're looking well into the future. Growth has been pretty predictable, so they can plan all of this, including the finances, the life of whatever power plant they're building. It's really unpredictable right now in the world we live in. And so solar, it's lower cost investment. You can put it, more where you need it. It reduces the need for putting in new transmission lines or upgrading, because if you can, put in solar farms more in the area where you need them, they're there. It's also not this long-term commitment. The whole process to get them in is shorter than, the bigger the plant, the more time it takes to get approval and the more risk there is. WPR had an article almost the same day. In Wisconsin, there's $1 billion of legacy costs in old power plants that are no longer being used. And Blake, this is where your ears should perk up. Apparently, when these solar farms and other things are built, they get guaranteed contracts on a rate of return, for that electricity in a period of time. So part of the legacy costs in Wisconsin on old plants is these people are still getting paid for electricity they're not producing. And so it would seem that, and so this packet says we do it all. We find the sites, we do the planning, we put in the solar farm, we take care of the financing. And I'm like, they work with your utility. So whoever comes here would have to work with Xcel Energy. And so I look at that and I'm asking myself, and this is the question, is there any of this that we can't do locally if we work together? The financing of this, if they get these guaranteed rates of return, well, it would seem like a good business to be in. Put in a solar farm, you know what you're going to get in return. Would our local lenders want to be involved in financing, solar farms? And do we have talent here? I know Joma Electric, most of 2 years ago, said at a public meeting that they had 5 people that work full-time with solar. I don't know if they have the capacity to do it. I knew a year ago, I looked at solar at the farm. I spent a lot of time in that process. I think they're well-versed and, is that a company that has the talent and, to do this? So instead of outsiders coming in and putting this in and taking a lot of the money that results from that, somewhere else, why don't we look at this locally and see if we collectively can, put in some solar farms instead of waiting for someone else to do it. And again, it's an economic development piece. It typically goes in ideally on low productive farmland. They want clear land because they don't want to clear trees, obviously. And then because ag land is the lowest rate of taxes on property, it's something other than ag land. So your tax base goes up, which we would be happy to hear because we need more net new construction. So I wanted to bring that forward as something, see if it's something we want to see if we could pursue. And then the lending, Blake, I could talk to you about that.
Well, and I think expertise is important. So having Dan or someone reach out to someone who executed this in a city like Superior, where you can drive and you can see a solar farm within the city, state, their Xcel, or whoever their power provider was to get that. Oftentimes they talk about tax credits. Well, tax credits right now from the federal government are all up in air. So, but these conversations and these types of meetings are hopefully the grassroots to getting discussions locally, because if someone comes in, the profits are gone, meaning that all of the benefits that we're going to give them, not dissimilar to the property that they're building in the city of Ashland right now. That's economic development, but they took $6 million from the city of Ashland through tax credits, through county, school, and they gave them to the developer. Now that's a complex project. And so those are the things that if we are serious, we have to start scratching the surface on what is the level of expertise that we're going to need to start this type of discussion. Because I know here, Pat and I don't want to call us country bumpkins, but we're country bumpkins, right? And so our level of expertise to execute this deal is not there. So how can we as a group collectively bring that right person in? So I think thank you for putting this on the agenda, and let's keep doing it.
Dan?
Just a couple things. I did invite Xcel to come to the next zoning committee meeting. I haven't heard anything back from them yet, but I will probably run into Lynn this weekend and I'll make sure somebody comes here. And Blake, you mentioned how the city did tax credits. Just so everybody knows, that was a TIF district. And by statute, counties cannot create TIF districts. And we don't have a mechanism by statute to issue tax credits. So that would be something that if we're in the city, we'd have to partner with the city with. Or, in fact, only cities and villages have the ability to do so. So, if we wanted to do that, a development down in Marengo, I would have to lobby the state legislature to give an exemption to Marengo or White River or wherever it is to do that.
So with Excel, I'm hoping either the first person or maybe they can do some homework in between, but when they put in the solar farm that's here and they call it the Ordock Solar Farm, that Excel is a key player in this because when you put in the solar farm, you have to be able to connect to your utility provider. And there's state rules on that with the PSC. It seems like the key cog in making it all work, because if they're not interested, you really are stuck. Unless you want to provide electricity at, I don't know, if it's even 2 cents a kilowatt hour, because you're not paying for transmission lines and upkeep. So it basically means you're in the hole, you won't do it.
Right.
So Excel would be a key player in there. And another thing was almost the same day in the third week of December, Northern News Now had a story where that natural gas plant that was proposed in Superior in all likelihood is a dead issue. And so the power they were going to generate, okay, that's not going to come to market. In northern Minnesota, a provider there said they're going to look elsewhere for power. So where's this power going to come from that plant was going to provide? And so there's got to be, an answer to that question. And so far, from what I'm reading, it seems like solar farms are part of that gap that's getting filled. The other part of all of this that we want to consider is, on the end of life issue with solar farms that, at some point they need to be replaced or removed, is we want to make sure we protect ourselves from a zoning perspective and otherwise from legacy costs with those. We don't want, 40 acres of solar panels left in the field and then asking ourselves, who's going to clean that up? So we want to, make sure things are bonded, I believe, and those legacy costs are covered so that the land will be restored. Because some of these companies, and there's other ones out there doing this, this isn't the only one. It seems like a whole new industry that's popped up in the last 10 or 15 years, effectively, is you want to protect yourself on those legacy costs.
So, just to clarify, you have to have Excel involved in it. Again, by statute, only power companies can sell power. And in fact, it was a huge deal last year when they allowed electric charging stations, because you're now allowing gas stations to sell power. So they actually had to change the law to do that. So you can't, there's the only way you can sell power is through a power company, except for that one exemption for for-profit businesses doing chargers. So like the county, good example is the city has those those electric chargers across from City Hall. They're by statute, they're not allowed to sell power off those charging stations. They can fill up city vehicles with it, but if they were to offer, otherwise they'd have to offer free power to everybody. So municipalities are not allowed to sell power. We could have a charging station for ourselves, for our own use, for our own fleet, but that's it. So we do need to work through Excel, or Bayfield Electric is another option.
Okay.
And George has his hands up.
George?
Right. Okay. Just wanted to say that, maybe something pretty close to us is this Barron County Maple Grove Solar Program, which is 1,559 acres of solar panels on a total area of 1,978 acres. That's a pretty big solar field. And I know that Excel is developing one that's almost 6 sections a little bit further downstate. But this one in Barron County would be interesting for anybody to take a look at sometime. I heard I think it was the mayor of Barron who spoke very favorably about this in something that I listened to. So just want to point out that example. That's a big solar field.
And another factor in all of this is power plant in Ashland, a decade or so now, they're going to have to refurbish that one again. And
Yeah, they're going to have to do something with that plant. But we can ask Excel when they come to zoning.
Yeah, so, what are their plans there? And I'm thinking partly in light of what happened in Superior, who knows what they might propose here, when they get to that point, so.
Well, the one in Superior, they may end up building a power plant closer to Hermantown because there's that data center that's probably going to go up there,
Yeah.
and they have to figure out some way to power that. So,
So we'll leave this as a standing item and then are we ready to move on then? So we have a grant writer update, so.
I won't go over the whole report that I submitted, assuming you skimmed it. I know that Blake has previously requested that we sort of only talk about things to take action on or things to decide on. The truth of the matter over the past many months has that it's been things that we have to decide on within less than 2 weeks in order for me to have the time to apply for something. The one thing with a slightly longer window right now is if and when the congressionally directed spending requests window opens again. Those are usually due in April. And the kind of sweet spot for the price of projects for those is between 1 and 3 million, maybe 500K to 4 million, right? So, and they really do need to be projects that are pretty much virtually shovel ready. So they can't be just incipient things. They need to be something that will be ready to go on. So I felt last year that the wind sled was a very good project because we know exactly why we need it. And all we needed was a quote, a set of quotes to be able to make the argument. We didn't win that because our radio towers was already pushed down the line and pushed down the line again. So I am hoping that, we get the okay from all of you that we resubmit on the wind sled, because that is something that fits this, that we can absolutely get in, if earmarks open again. The other piece, if you'd like the update on the Wisconsin DOA Coastal Management Program grant, we requested almost $200,000 to defray the purchase cost of the Maxwell Forest from Northland College. I was primary writer on that, but had a lot of help from Landmark Conservancy and Sarah Hudson from Bayfield County because they have worked together a lot for projects similar to this. The information that has come in about that since I submitted the report is that we have been, in the first stages of things, we have been put up for funding. We have an all-day meeting with a short pitch that Erica Lang from Landmark Conservancy will give for us next Wednesday, where we get put up against every other project in the state, both projects that have been sort of pushed to the next level of funding and projects that would like one more chance if they have not been pushed to the next level. I do feel good about it. They have been good in communication with us since before we submitted. Landmark is applying for at least one other grant that they can do as a nonprofit to hopefully fill out the rest of the cost of the property. So that if we can get both of those 2 grants, we should be able to make the offer to Northland College, I assume. Would you like me to, I know this has already been and you're watching the clock, would you like me to give an overview of anything else or report on anything else?
We've got time.
Okay. The Wiscom Interoperable Radio Grant, that was submitted on time. Dan and Mark AA are still talking over the innovation grant details, I believe.
yeah, I'll get into that on my update.
Okay. We have several grants that we have submitted that are status unknown because it's really only been, the last one was maybe 3 months ago. So these are fairly short time periods, especially for state grant turnarounds. Hopefully the US DOT RTA grants at the top of the grants submitted column will be, I contacted Baldwin's office for an update to see if she could reach out to DOT, and they did. And they said hopefully imminently, but that was probably a month ago. So we will hear about that. We've also got, of course, grants in for the Wisconsin DOA non-state building grant, which we requested $149,000 for the Shawamigan Humane Building Fund. Otherwise, you'll see on here that I've submitted, I believe, 8 or 9 other private foundation grants. We have won 2, which makes almost $28,000 for them towards that as well. A selection of kind of other grants for the sheriff as well. And just a whole lot of research and advising and assistance over the past 5-6 months for our county nonprofit groups. We know that there is money coming back in. I don't ask them to report back to me about when and if they win things, but many of them do. Lori Jeanzak has won several $1,000s for projects down there. As part of the county, or at least attached to the county, Spark won the almost $400,000 grant for their work. So we're moving along. We are constantly adapting as we go. Yeah.
Questions?
I have one. How often do you want to see this report?
How often do we want to see this report? I think quarterly personally is nice. Brad?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm fine with the 6 months. I like the way it's laid out, and it's perfect. You don't even need to talk when you have this much detail in there. Is what it's like. This was perfect, and I was like, wow, I didn't know we did this much. So good work,
Okay.
well done. And yeah, I think quarterly or 6 months, whatever, is easy to do.
Blake?
Quarterly is good.
Okay. George, you have your hand up? Or to just not get down
No,
later?
no,
Okay,
no, forgot to take it down. Sorry about that.
okay. So, quarterly or maybe or so, depending on how we're going through budget season, is nice. You work directly under the administrator, so, you mentioned early in your comments that sometimes it's short turnarounds or whatever, but because you're working under the administrator and he should be the guy that knows everything that's going on and priorities, and then we have a comp plan also as a guide, you're, involved with that process. So, you have pretty good understanding of what we're looking at. And I would also argue that for an economic development standpoint, this is pretty obvious, but sometimes we need to say it so people are aware of it. This grant money brings in money that otherwise wouldn't be here, and it gets used, and that supports economic development too, and improves, as George said, our quality of life. If this is a place that people want to live and work, they'll be here and they'll figure out how to make that living, but it makes it more attractive to be here, and that has a ripple effect, multiplier effect. So all those things are positives for what we're doing. Yeah, so thank you. Anything else on grants?
Just one question. Didn't we call it something besides wind sled because it created confusion when we were submitting it? Or was that the other name?
Yeah, Ice Angel.
Ice Angel is the word that
Okay.
we don't use.
All right, Ice Angel. All right. And just as I think about how important that is based on how much the ice is used in our area, how did you feel fairly positive about that grant? I can't remember exactly because it was so long ago.
I did because, truthfully, since then, I have been on a constant lookout for other possible grants. When I've talked with a couple of, grant writer friends from across the state, They have suggested that the wind sled, because it serves the entire bay and because it's so photogenic, it's a very sexy project. And yeah, if we can't get an earmark through it, then actually perhaps what we can do, if we also cannot get state funding for it, which seems ridiculous, but maybe I try to approach some private donors in the area. I am a total novice at that. I have never done that before. That's usually not my game, but I feel like I can maybe ask connections of connections, right? So that now that I am connected to Boreal Waters Community Foundation because we won a grant for CHA, I can go back to the people that I've spoken with there and say, you know, you've got 50 different types of grants here, but do you have any funders behind the scenes that are looking to make a splash for effectively the whole region, right? It's a 3-county area, the entire bay, and it goes out beyond the bay as well. To get their name on that, to get them in the news for a new wind sled project, you know, maybe for some of these projects. So yeah, sorry, long answer to Blake's good question. I think it's worth a shot. I think it's a strong project. And if we don't receive it again, then I think we should certainly follow up on other methods as well.
Thank you.
Anything else on grants? Then we'll move on to reports and updates with the treasurer report, county investments.
Okay, well, the investments are up here. As it stated last meeting, interest rates went down because the Fed lowered interest rates. So we're still. Sorry. So we're still making decent money on the accounts, as Steve pointed out earlier in the meeting. And then I'll move to sales tax, which again was, so this is only through October, and we're shy of our budget number by $1,500. So we can reasonably expect another $300,000 in sales tax.
You said through October, but I see numbers all the way through.
Right. Because it's the number we got in December. That's why. So it's the October number, actually. December is October.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right, because it's a 2-month lag.
Yeah.
You know, businesses have 30 days to
Right.
report, to pay their sales tax, and then DOR takes another month to compile all the information. So we can reasonably expect, if we look at these numbers, close to $300,000 at least, which would make our budget number a lot shy. As a note, we did budget less this last budget than the 2.9 for sales tax. So if 26 holds up like 25 did and 24, and we will see a big surplus in sales tax this year. So that's something we can hope for. And Amy Moore has a different report that shows the 2 months empty, that I can start putting that one on this packet if you want also, just so you can compare the two. Or I don't know what's easier for you guys. So.
Well, we also expect sales tax to be higher if the reroute starts too, right? Is that?
We do, and as inflation goes up, so does sales tax.
You know, these estimates, I mean, they're interesting, but in the big picture, you know, it's pretty small, and we'll get the information in due time. It reminds me, I'm just kind of chuckling, when Paul Volcker was Fed chair, he used the phrase voodoo economics, and now we're kind of penciling in numbers here, and we have voodoo estimates, trying to, like we're in the prediction markets. Anything else?
No, that's it. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves.
Okay, and then administrator updates? So
Erica had mentioned an earmark that we want. So this is Erica and Christina Zambrowski are responsible for this. Been working on it for a couple years. We were in Congress just finally approved it because they actually did an appropriations bill instead of doing a continuing resolution. We won, and we still haven't gotten official notification from Tammy Baldwin's office because the president hasn't signed the bill yet, I don't think. But he will before. He hasn't vetoed it, and so everybody remembers their constitution. The president has 10 days from when it is sent by Congress to him to sign it, not including Sundays. Otherwise, it's a pocket veto and becomes law anyhow. So I fully expect it'll become law by January 30th when funding runs out for the government. Anyhow, it's a $3 million that we were awarded for new radios and new radio equipment for the sheriff's department. So this will be all the equipment we need to get up to next gen 911. Let's go. So it's a big thing for us. It's going to save us a lot of money. It's money we would have to borrow for anyhow to make the upgrade. So this is a huge thing. So thank you, Erica and Christina. So
That was, she submitted that before I got here.
I know, but you changed the language for the second submission. So we give everybody credit. So Erica also mentioned innovation grant. So we are Mark and I have been going back and forth on this, and at WCA conference, Gary gave me permission to deal with the Tolis law firm on this. So we are going to apply for an innovation grant for joint dispatch. That should, if awarded, the Ashland County portion alone would be $1 million over 5 years. Which was money that we would not have to take out of our levy to give to dispatch. The state would give us that money for 5 years. So it could potentially be a huge source of revenue for us, untapped revenue for 5 years that we can use to balance our budget. There are some things that we have to do. A Tolis law is going to have to come up with new legal documents for joint dispatch. It's no longer be a board. We're going to have to turn it into a commission. In order to get both sheriffs on board, we agreed it's the exact same membership. So both sheriffs, county board member from each county, and both administrators. The new commission would not have taxation power. So we'd say that both county boards still control it the same way we do now. But transferring it to that commission is what enables us to qualify for the innovation grant. So we will be applying for that. I need to talk to Mark one last time, and we'll have Matt Tome draw up the documents. So and we do feel this is exactly what the state legislature had in mind when they created the innovation grant in the first place. So that will be done. It'll have to be done by the middle of March. Then
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
I mean, on the surface, at first blush, unless I'm missing something here, it feels like, well, that project effectively has been done. Why would we give you an innovation grant for something that's effectively been done? Can somebody explain that to me?
We're recouping. The innovation grant is all about that. It is a dedicated grant for collapsing services and transferring services. You can see how I think of it is the state is noticing that in many counties, population is going to go down over the long haul. And so we need fewer service agencies that are covering more area for all of these priority areas, and law enforcement is a big one, and EMS and kind of everything else. So,
our attorney at Tolis Law, that's just so everybody knows, that's Andy Phillips' law firm, did contact DOR and about this issue, and was told that yes, we could qualify for it because we are still transferring the service to a different agency.
Making a commission.
We're creating a commission and we're transferring the services to that commission. So it qualifies for innovation grant.
So being able to apply is one thing, meeting the criteria, but realistically,
We have a good chance at it.
you do.
I mean, I think the limiting factor is that how much is dedicated to it? Like 30 million?
Yeah.
And this is a nice pot of money that if you win it, if you get it back, if you're paid out over the 5 years, you can do, a county or a city can do anything they want with that money. That has no,
Right.
it doesn't have to go into law enforcement, that you can use it for anything. And so I have a feeling that everybody is applying for this grant.
Right. So we can.
So
if-
it will be competitive. I think we can be competitive, and we are in the top priority category for the type of program that we're transferring. So I think that'll get us extra points. Also, I mean, relatively, it's a fairly small amount of money because, but we will also be competing with, I'm sure, much larger cities that are going to be asking for $6 million payouts per year, right? So
Yeah. So I mean, when we did the joint dispatch, the state wanted that for reasons like you said, but this almost feels like, okay, if you want us to get to the finish line on what you want, give us the money to get to the finish line that you would like us to see. We're happy to do it, but you're going to have to give us the money to get to, and then we're that model, if you will, up here that the state would like others to go to, but they want us to get to that finish line of the commission.
And that's exactly what gives us a really good chance of getting the grant.
All right.
So Pat, just to lay on that, we've outlaid this money in 2024, 2025 in our
24.
budget. It's all been
Yeah.
spent, right?
Yeah.
So when this comes, if we were to be successful,
It's
does that go
25% of the 2024 dollars.
so our budgets then are locked obviously for 2024, but how does that benefit us like in this year for those monies we should have gotten on this, because we spent those monies in 2024 and 5?
Right. It doesn't help us in 26. It will help us in 27 when the
Okay.
budget is going to be much tougher to make. As Steve was saying earlier, we're going to use every last dollar in our levy. And I mentioned to this committee numerous times that 27 was going to be a much harder year. So this, $250,000 is a way we can help alleviate that hard choices that may have to be made.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure if we spent the money, we can put it back in, and we can, and from Erica's comments, we can use it for anything once
Yep.
we get it back.
Yep, we can use it to give the supervisors a new pay raise. Okay, so our financial person is starting on Monday. So we will have her here at the county board meeting on Tuesday for everybody to meet. And then I just wanted to touch on data centers because I know that's a big concern around here. So 2 weeks ago, the legislation was introduced in the Assembly. The Assembly took it up and passed it already. It would do a number of things that alleviate some of our concerns. One, it would make sure that ratepayers do not pay for the upgrades to utilities, so our electric bills don't go up. It would require the data centers for water use closed loop systems, sort of like geothermal, so they're not constantly sucking water out of either the ground or the lakes or the rivers. It would also, when you were talking about legacy costs, it also require data centers owners to put up a bond to cover any legacy costs for the shutdown of the data center. I expect the Senate's going to take it up this month or next month, and it will probably be signed. At least it does alleviate some of the water concerns. But as we were talking earlier, water can be hard to come by in this county. So I'm not even sure that even if we had the power, that they would even want to come here because of the lack of consistent water in large parts of the county. I also know Microsoft is putting up another 15 data centers in Pleasant Prairie, Kenosha. They have a deal. I think Kenosha is where a lot of them are going to go because their water utility down there is overbuilt. They have so much capacity at that down there that is the water issues now are near as bad because they can run it through their water system and their wastewater system can handle it all. So for those utilities, actually, it's going to be a good thing. For those water utilities and wastewater utilities, it's actually going to be a very good thing for those areas. So I just want to let you know that's happening. And that's all I got. We covered everything else sort of during the meeting, so.
Well, you ready for the motion to adjourn?
Oh, okay. Set meeting date. So. Calendar. Outlook. The next meeting would be the 19th. Yeah, the third Thursday of February would be the 19th. Otherwise, the third Thursday of March would be the 19th.
Depends on the topic we're talking about, the issues related to economic development and some of that,
Microphone, please.
I'm sorry. Yep, sorry. We could go with February, give us a little more time on some of the economic development related topics,
Yeah.
because later in the summer, it's going to get busier with some of the other stuff.
Or do you want to pencil it in and then if there's not enough agenda items, you
Yeah,
can always
let's go
cancel
with
it?
February 19th, you said?
Yeah,
Yeah.
And then what time?
it's up to you guys.
2:00, good?
Blake, does 2 work for you?
Sure thing.
Okay, so we'll go February 19th at 2:00 then.
Okay, and then if there's not much of an agenda, Pat can always cancel the meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll find some things.
I gotta make a motion here quick because I didn't make any yet.
Okay, go for it.
I make the motion, we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second by Ron.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned.
See you guys.